We are all volunteers. We work for the poster artists, for the poster community. We just, you know, we do this thing, and we love the scene, and the scene sustains as long as there are people supporting everything that these guys do. So you can, you know, anything you need to find out about TRPS, you probably know trps.org. One of our proudest things that we do is the TRPS Artist Relief Trust. And this is a set aside thing that we do to provide help for poster artists in time of need. And 2020 has certainly been that. COVID has dried up poster work for a lot of people who have suffered as a result. And we have been able to provide quite a bit of help. We've helped, I think, over 24 artists this year, and granted over $20,000. And that is thanks to your support of you know, supporting this effort that we do by buying the Artist Relief Trust posters that we release. Typically, this is something we do at our fall show in San Francisco at the Hall of Flowers, which didn't happen this year. So we're taking a little different tack, and we are stoked that Brad Klausen has done a great poster to help us out and given his time. And we are going to be offering that tonight. And all you people watching who are registered are going to have the first shot at getting those. So we'll have more on that in a little while. So anyway, I don't want to sit here and chat on my own here too much. I want to bring in Todd Slater.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
And Brad Klausen from Seattle.
Hello.
And Ken Taylor from all the way over in Melbourne. So guys, how are you doing?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Thanks for asking me, Brad. It's a nice, it's good. I've been isolated for a while, and it's nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces too.
Good. Yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say, I wanted to thank Ken and Todd for agreeing to do this, because I reached out to both of them, and they were both totally cool with agreeing to do this. So thank you guys both for taking time out of your schedules and taking time to do this. And I think of it like rock poster artists are a lot to me like stand-up comedians, in that it's a isolating job, is that every stand-up comedian is sort of doing their own thing and hustling on their own and making their own comedy and making their own artwork, but they're all doing the same thing, right? They're all doing comedy. And then they all know the same clubs. They're all going, oh, I know this person who owns the, you know, the Chuckle Factory in Chicago or wherever, whatever the names of the places would be. And I think it's the same way with poster artists, is that you kind of are isolated, like you're saying, and just doing your own thing, but there's this collection of other people that are doing the same stuff as you, but it's different. And in the same way with stand-up comedians, you just come up with whoever you come up with. And I know, Todd, you were doing posters before I was, and I don't remember, Ken, when you started exactly.
I think we were all like early 2000s around that time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember on gig posters, you were already doing posters when I first started doing stuff. And I don't remember, Ken, I think the first one of yours I saw was that 2006 Pearl Jam, that Australian tour where you did like the Burning Fire, and there was a raven or something. Was it like Fields on Fire?
Yeah, I mean, I had been doing posters much earlier on than that, but hadn't really discovered gigposters.com until I think around 2000 well, actually, I mean, I think that was the second poster I uploaded to gigposters.com. And by that time, you guys were already killing it at that point. So, yeah, you were a huge inspiration for me, both of you. So,
likewise. But that's the thing that like, I kind of think of us as kind of coming up in the same class in a way, even though we're sort of different years. It'd be sort of like at the same time frame, the same time period, and you don't get to choose those things, right? You just exist at the same time. It's the same people, so it's awesome to me that I got to come up with two guys like you and two talents like you, and it's just I feel fortunate and lucky that I got to exist at the same time as you guys were making posters. And I mean, don't you miss gigposters.com. I used to love going there.
Oh man, I miss it so much.
I used to love the back of the critique, like having your peers. I mean, that's sort of like what we do via email. If I send you, say like, hey, this is what I'm working on. What are you working on? I miss that aspect of gig posters. I miss being able to go there every day and be like, some days there was just like waves of just brilliant artwork that would happen in one day, and everybody would just release a bunch of stuff. And it was so cool to have that. If you were stuck or if you were trying to come up with inspirations, to go to gigposters.com and just flip through all that stuff and see what everybody was working on. And there's still tons of people that I wish were making posters. Like, what is Zach Hobbs still making posters?
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram, and he does still make stuff, and he's a good follow. But I may go 5 years, maybe even longer before. I don't even know how long it's been since I've seen Brad face to face. It may be 10 years. I don't know, but I still feel a closeness to you guys because we share this very narrow thing that not very many people do. And the Gig Poster site, it really linked all of us together, and it's a bummer that it's not around, because you could just kind of see everyone's new work on one site. So I just to echo what you're saying, I miss that place a lot.
Yeah, it was always inspiring, and always a good way to like start your day and just go see what people had done. And I swear to God, every time I would release a poster or finish a poster and be like really proud of it and think I'd done something really strong and solid, almost like
got hammered in the comments.
No. It almost happened this so many times, as I'd be all proud of myself and be like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And then within I do online to just look see what people have been up to. And like, it happened so many times where Aaron Horkey would release a new piece, and it would take all the wind out of my sails. I'd be like, oh, I make cartoons. I'd be all proud of this thing that I just finished. I'd be like, it's so good. This is the best thing I'd ever done. And then just go online. It would happen so many times where Aaron would have released something, and I'd be like, I'd go from this moment of feeling really proud of myself to just feeling like I'm the worst artist in the world.
It is interesting when I remember seeing Aaron's work for the first time was a Phantoma's Melvin's poster. And I remember seeing Ken's Pearl Jam for the first time with the fiery text on it. And you could tell, like, immediately, just snap your finger and know, like, this person is a professional that's going to have like as long a career as they want to have. I mean, artists like that just jump right off the page the first time you see their work.
Yeah, like Ken's that I think that Nine Inch Nails poster you did with the guy with like the goggles and the whole thing.
Did that one lead to Rob tapping you from Mondo for your first Mondo job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the sort of the one that broke through, I guess, for me.
So this is for the people listening. It's a Metallica poster from maybe 2006 with a lot of wiring and.
And I was thinking it's Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, Nine Inch Nails. Sorry, I was okay.
Yeah, there was that one that I think it was. I don't know where it sat in the scheme of things. It was still pretty new, I think, to that Gig Posters scene, the gigposters.com scene. But yeah, that led to me doing a. I think I either did he might have tapped me on the shoulder to do, remember when they did that Lost series?
Uh-huh.
Oh, with Gallery 1988. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was first, and then I got to do a Rocky Horror Picture Show poster.
Oh, you did that series, right, of the characters? I remember seeing those at DNL.
Yeah, that was kind of the first job for that. So yeah, no.
That's one of the interesting benefits of I just happen to live in Seattle, and that's where DNL was, and Justin Hampton had turned me on to DNL, but I would go in there and get to see everybody else's work being printed, and that was such a huge help in my own development, was to get to go in and see how, like, you know, how other people trap their stuff, or just to see other people's work in person, and to just be surrounded by it, because DNL has all the work on the walls. But it's a double-edged sword, because at the same time you go in to pick up your prints and to see how they turned out, you see everybody else's new stuff, and it all looks so much better. So you're just like, I came here for my thing, to pick up my thing, and the whole time I'm just staring at like a Martin Anson poster, like trying to figure out like how he's doing any of the stuff that he's doing. But he's still making posters.
Speaking of trapping, Todd Slater taught me how to trap via many emails back in probably 2006 or something like that. 7.
Oh, wow. I'm happy to play some tiny role. It's cool.
I think it was actually in order to get that Lost poster to print.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a very detailed Jack Johnson poster that had been broken up into a million pieces to sort of explain the concept of, you know, dividing everything up and it going through everything. And yeah, it was a watershed moment.
How long does it take you guys both to trap? Like, if you've got the design totally done, is it a day? Is it just?
Yeah, it's like one day to do color separations. I mean, it depends on the design, and I've gotten faster at it over the years, but I've found if I go faster, then some stray marks or some mistakes get made. And you can kind of, now I've been doing something where I've been hiding textures behind layers so that when other inks are overprinting those, that you get sort of these subtle textures underneath. So I feel like if you talked to me 10 years ago, I would have said it would take a full day, and now it still takes a full day. So I think I make the job harder on myself by just adding more layers and textures and hidden elements in it.
Yeah.
But the mastering like the separations for screen printing, I think it's one of the hardest things to unlock, and I think it's a roadblock for a lot of people that they just kind of don't do screen prints because of color separations and the fact that you have to print the colors individually. I think that it's intimidating to people. I wish there was some kind of catch-all, you know, Gig Posters had a lot of forums on it. I wish there was kind of a catch-all place for new people to kind of teach them the ways of color separations, because it is a tough thing to learn.
Yeah, guys, I think people love these process questions. Tell everyone what you mean by trapping and color separating, and just, you know, a basic primer on the process you're talking about.
With screen printing, I mean, you want to think about it in terms of stencils. It's basically like elaborate stencils. And when you print a screen print, traditionally, you're printing the colors one at a time, and you're usually going lightest to darkest. You can break any of these rules that you want, but that's traditionally the way you do it. So when you create your files, you've got to account for those layers when you're making it. You can't just take a painting, I mean, and just a flat piece of art and say, here, go screen print this. There's a process to get that ready. And if you know that process when you begin the art, and kind of create your art around these layers, it makes for a better screen print. You guys can add on here and there, but I like to describe it as a stencil. I feel like that's helpful for people to visualize.
I still don't understand how it's possible for someone like, you know, like NC Winter's prints. Like, I look at that and that I can't comprehend how that is printed or trapped or anything.
No, me neither. Ken, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll go into DNL and I'll see stuff like that, and I'm like, how is this a screen print, and who's trapped this? Like, who's doing
I think a big development that's happened in the last, I don't know, 10 years is that before, you and I, all three of us print many times with really opaque inks. They're big fields of flat color, and they're kind of made to be screen printed, if you look at our work. And then years ago, people like Jason Edmiston and NC Winters, who were dealing with like flesh tones, you were using more transparent inks to kind of build up textures and build up skin tones. And I think in using those transparencies versus opaque inks that we use, I think that was a big key in kind of making them look more photorealistic in the last.
Well, I think too that I think it's also the developments in Photoshop brushes, because I think so much of the stuff that I see that like Phantom City Creative and like Jason Edmondson and stuff like that are getting those diffuse dithering, where it looks like, you know, when you have a pencil or charcoal and it breaks up and it, you know, diminishes out as you're drawing the line, you know. I feel like every time I go in, I'm seeing people every time I go into DNL, I'm seeing people do stuff with screen printing that when I started, it was more Kozik-y basic shapes, you know, like hard lines and basic flat shapes and stuff like that. And now I'm seeing people get, Emic was only the ever one I ever really saw who did that like diffusion dither thing where he could get like values and shading and stuff like that. Right. Which, I mean, you're kind of doing the same thing though, Todd, with all the pointillism stuff. You're getting that same sort of gritty, disseminating line quality or colors that if you want it to like break up as it's leaving, you do less and less dots, you know, that sort of thing. But and when I look at the dot stuff, I always think like how that seems like it would be hard to trap. And obviously you got to print the colors on top. So some of them are just sitting on top of each other, but it seems like there's so many little spots where we get out of registration.
It is. And that's why it takes a full day to just kind of manage those places that you anticipate are going to be troubled areas in the printing. And you just got to add extra bits of trap there and give the printer a little more wiggle room with color registration. Is that making sense, Marty?
Yeah. I know, and I know you guys work in different ways. And Ken, you're just such a talented illustrator. I would think your process is more akin to something like Horkey or Emic, where you just sit and you're drawing and going to the finer and finer rapidograph tips and just really getting the detail in and working it and how you manage to do that is always just really amazing to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I tend to work with, like, I'll draw everything. It's pretty much like a finished piece as a black line, and then the colors kind of get dropped in underneath that, I guess like a coloring book in reverse almost. So yeah, I think that sometimes I run into issues with color then, because I get sort of like into the kind of line work part of it, that it becomes almost like I don't know. There's often like when I've made something, there'll be parts of the image that I'm really not happy with, or for some reason I can't nail it or whatever. And then when it comes to, but as a complete piece, it looks okay as a black and white or whatever. And then when it comes to adding color, some of those bits that shit me a bit really kind of leap out at me, and then I get like I have this kind of breakdown in terms of trying to not highlight that bit, even though realistically it should be like highlighted and so on and so forth. And I think it's like a bit of a battle in my own head, because whenever I kind of share it with anyone else, often their first kind of point is, can you make that thing there stand out more? And I'm like, no, that's the bit I'm trying to do. So, yeah.
But okay, Ken, I was looking through some of the images you sent and the emails that we were doing for this of your work. And I noticed in the images, like the JPEGs that you sent, the same thing that I deal with, and I'm sure that we all deal with, which is the colors on your screen are so backlit and so vibrant. And I know there's times with Steve at DNL, especially like with cyan, he always says like, that's a computer color. Like I can't get that richness, that vibrancy of that thing. And do you guys have that issue where you're working, because I know I have that, where the image on my computer screen, as electric and vibrant as screen print inks can be, and that's one of the things that's so great about those Kozik posters, is how just electric those reds and it's neon. Do you guys struggle with that, like having to have this image that you've been staring at for 2 weeks or however long on your screen, and the colors are this rich vibrancy, and then it prints and the colors get dull, or they get, that's one of the things that's always the crapshoot about going to the printer is you never know exactly how the inks are going to sit on that paper and how they're going to turn out. And some of it turns out better, but there's numerous times where we're the only ones who know what that JPEG looks like. Like we've been staring at it on our computer screen for so long. And I was looking at your images that you sent, Ken. It seems like the same thing. Like there's just a saturation in those computer screen images that's so vibrant and so bright. Is it anything that you guys deal with as far as just trying to match colors? Do you guys send PMS colors, or every time I try and pick a Pantone color, I can never find the right color. It's such a weird aspect of trying to call out colors and then send a JPEG to somebody and they're looking at on their monitors. Their monitor the same as my monitor. Is the the Pantone book is on printed paper too, so that color matching thing I think is always sort of a tricky aspect of screen printing. I'm curious if you guys ever get into that point where you don't get the same richness of your computer screen colors.
Well, I mean, that one that you shared in particular, that Queens of the Stone Age one, that was actually printed in Australia, and this one as well. Both of those were made by a printer that only works in PMS colors. So that's kind of, and they actually, the place that prints those, it's weird that they're like a factory that doesn't do any other kind of art-based printing work. Everything else that they do is like when you have like large-scale machinery in a factory that'll have like a control panel or whatever on it, and it'll have lots of little buttons. That factory, aside from printing like gig posters for me and Reese Cooper, it's 99.9% of its other business is printing buttons for machinery. But they actually do a really good job, but their inks are super thick, and they won't be doing anything with like there's no overlays or anything too crazy. It's just like solid black color, and they will only work with coated PMS inks. So with that, I am kind of choosing them. But when it comes to dealing with like a DNL or like a Lady Lazarus or Half and Half or any of the other ones that get used on the reg, I'm pretty lazy. I actually do say, can you just match as close as possible to what you see on the screen? I guess in a sense, I'm sort of saying, for the most part, well, I guess the other thing is, I'm not someone that's going to look at it and go, oh, that blue's slightly off or that red's slightly off or whatever. Like, although weirdly, that Avett Brothers poster did actually get printed twice because of that issue, but that was a mistake on their end. But they, for the most part, the printers that I guess get used regularly are so amazing these days, and they tend to sort of just, like for something like that, I just kind of, like that Jack White one, for example, I'm just going, can you make the birds some sort of smoky blue similar to this, and please put metallic flake in it. And that's kind of all I'm saying.
I do the same thing with DNL because I've used them almost my whole career for almost all my stuff. I tell Steve, just match to your monitor, because I can never find the right Pantone color. So I say and he's one of the best color matchers around, and that's such a fine art in itself, is mixing inks to get the right color. But I do the same thing. I just say if you get this as close to your monitor as you can.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, like I kind of would assume that, given that they're in the business of being a professional printer, that their monitors are calibrated correctly anyway. So, the difference.
But it's one of those things too, where color is such a fine line though too, where like purples and blues, some people think purple looks blue, and it's one of those things where you realize like I don't drink coffee, and the rest of the planet seems to really enjoy coffee. So it makes me wonder if flavors and our taste so different to us than colors, we must all see colors in slightly variations. You know what I mean? Like what does my version of red look like to
I mean, I guess I'm always, I don't think maybe throughout my career I might have used it a few times, but for the most part I don't really use magenta or like hot pinks in any way, shape or form, because I know that they're not going to print correctly. And whenever I use something that is like all the blues that I'm using, I'm usually, for the most part, even if they are 100% cyan, I'm also adding, like black into that to kind of dull it down a bit, or they're always kind of toned back. It's like, I guess the best way I would describe it is making them more dusty looking or something. And that way I sort of tend to be, for me, that's working a bit on the safe side. It might make my prints look a little bit dull at times, but I think in turn it can also make like something that you can rely on, like a red or a yellow or whatever. If you add that in, then it usually pops quite well. So yeah.
The funny thing is that I do the exact same thing. I do not give any PMS colors out, and it was in the early 2000s. I faced a lot of resistance from printers, and then what I realized is that I stopped showing digital pictures of the gig posters if possible, and I just started photographing the real thing, because I felt like the digital would set up an unreasonable precedent for what it might look like. And I just thought if I can kind of deal with some of the color shifting and everything, that it would be better just to not even let the digital out there if possible, so people wouldn't even have a comparison. But I have noticed in recent years, that in order to get that really rich color, that I find that I do like oil-based inks more than the water-based inks. That DNL, most places are using water-based inks, and if you've got a Pearl Jam poster, they use a place called In-House in California, and the inks have a smell. They smell like turpentine. It's not great for the environment. There's some stuff there that's not great, but you do get a certain level of richness to the inks and kind of a finish that a part of me says I should just be printing all of my stuff with oil-based inks. But
yeah, it's interesting because I'd had DNL print all my stuff for forever, and then Pearl Jam switched over to In-House, and then at first I didn't like that kind of glossy In-House ink quality, and now I kind of do. Now
I just find when I get like a red or something, there is a richness to those oil. I mean, it's really oils and acrylics and like fine art. Maybe it's just me, and a lot of people actually have a problem with that smell. It doesn't really bother me. It smells like a painting studio. Right. But there are people who say, "Hey, my tube smells like turpentine. I'm not into this."
And you should just tell them, like, just really dig in, stick your nose in that tube, and really huff that. Get a good whiff.
So do you guys plan, when talking about your inks, do you plan your inks and colors for a particular type of paper, or do you experiment with papers and maybe adjust the inks depending on the absorption or look you want with this? I mean, is it something you play around with?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's when you're printing on dark papers, I feel like you can really just throw out the PMS books because it's not going to work. And I think it's just for me, it's just about experience and knowing that what can the printer do? Are they going to be able to print that magenta there, that pinkish color on dark paper, and it's going to show up, and then I'll communicate with the printer and say, hey, do you want to run like a light base behind those pink pills and that Ween print there to kind of keep its vibrancy? And usually a good relationship with a printer, they'll let you know what they think should be done. But
black paper is tricky.
I do think about the paper stocks and how the inks are going to lay on it. And I've never felt, so much of the world is doing foil prints, and I do like foil. It's cool, but at times I feel like the ink sort of sits on top of it like a lottery ticket where you can kind of gently like scratch it off. Yeah. It's fine. It's just like a minor thing, but I've never felt totally comfortable with the way the inks absorb on those foil stocks.
I absolutely hate foils. I think they are the worst. I don't know. I don't understand why people love them so much. Yeah, I do not know why.
So I just did a Yoda one on different foil stocks, and I think that one thing that I'm experimenting with is just running a spot varnish, a kind of a clear spot varnish over the entire thing, just to see if it kind of takes away some of that dusty kind of lottery ticket scratch off type feel.
Is that working?
I haven't seen them yet in person.
But how does the prints that you've done that are that like what is the peacocks that you've done that's that different style of printing that's like that heat?
Oh yeah. That's like a heated foil. That's a different process. Let me see. Let me grab a prop real fast, and I can kind of show that.
Because those are some of my favorite. They look really cool. And Todd, you had gave me the information of the people that print that stuff, and it does seem like it's pretty pricey. It does seem like it's, as far as like print runs go.
Wow.
It's so expensive. So this is like a Sean Connery, a 007 face
The
there.
Goldfinger.
You have to make a copper plate, and then they run like a ribbon of foil in front of this, and the copper plate will presses down, like embosses into the paper. And it's a different process, and it has a really a clean look. And it kind of gets away from all the problems I've had with foil paper and scratching and everything like that. This process is good, but the big issue is that creating these super heavy copper plates, and you have to make one for every single color that you do. It costs a lot, and it's really ideal for like printing in the thousands, that's not generally.
But you don't do. Is it work better for a print where you've knocked out the black line and like the paper is the black line, because you can't have colors? Can you have colors touching?
I get varying answers on that. I think you can lay foil on top of foil, but I also don't think it's ideal. I think it's better if the foils don't touch each other. So I've been using black paper and then printing all the light colors.
Yeah. Online, they look sharp. They look really cool. I mean, it looks like there's a range of, it looks, like you said, it looks higher quality than foil paper.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I had one over here, but I'd have to go to a drawer to pull it out. But
yeah, but I contacted them and said I wanted to do a small run, and they basically said the same thing as you. Like, it's going to be more worth your while to print more than a limited run, because it's going to cost just as much. And so it was sort of out of the realm of possibilities just because the price. But I bet they look really cool online. So
yeah, they're fun. I mean, it's worth doing. It's a place called Studio on Fire in Minneapolis, and I'd seen Aaron Horkey use them before to kind of embellish parts of his prints, and that's where I sort of got the name to go on.
I wanted to ask both of you guys too. The thing I'm so impressed and blown away with by both of you, not only how talented and skilled and prolific you are, is that you have kids and you have this whole other responsibility. And as like an artist, where through not having kids, I can chase ideas if they happen at like 4 a.m. Like I don't have that. Like, you wake up, take kids to school. I don't have those windows of time where my kids are gone and this is where I need to focus my work. Is that a difficult thing when there's no like creativity in the well, but that's your window of time to work? Does it force you to have to really focus and get things done in those time frames, or can you get up at 2 a.m. when the idea arrives and work until 6, or is that just not a possibility?
I'll let Ken go first.
You sound like I was before I had kids. where I was like, oh man, it's gonna ruin all my creativity, and I'll never get any work done, and all that kind of thing. And to a certain extent, that is true. But I feel like I'm probably more productive now than I was I feel like I'm doing more hours anyway. And I guess that's down to, maybe me having the ability to survive on a little less sleep than some. It's probably also down to having an understanding partner who, is aware that I might be working nights still. But yeah, I mean, I still take the kids to school and make lunches and make dinner and try and exercise and do all the kind of normal things that I would, that I thought I would have to give up. And it also gives you a motivation to, you've got people relying on you, I guess. So you can't sort of sit around and, bemoan the current state of affairs. You have to kind of go and get shit done. I think it's, it's something that was really scary, but I don't know, you get used to it. And I say that with two. Todd, how many you got? 4? Is it, or 3?
No, I have three, 6, 9, and 13.
Yeah. So, I mean, mine are 11 and 6 now.
Both girls, right?
Yeah. So, I'm hoping. Yeah. I mean, it seems to. I think it's good, like as well. Like, what I've really enjoyed is both of them are quite good at art.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, one in particular, the little one's really quite far and away above her kind of little mates at prep. So it's really amazing to see that kind of thing begin to bloom in them. And that's great. And that, I think the fact that, you know, they come home from school and come into the studio and they'll see me working and they get, you know, I think they see this as a relatively, you know, idyllic life, I guess, that I can just sit in here and do what I want all day long.
So we've skipped the the obvious topic of the day. How has this COVID thing, you know, all this quarantine affected your work and your work habits and the type of stuff you're doing? I mean, you know, gig posters just dried up overnight, and it's really hit some people hard. But everybody's had to adjust. What do you guys do?
I actually thought when this started in March and when we had the week where South by Southwest was canceled and the NBA was canceled, I sort of flashed back to the housing crisis in like 2009-ish, I think it was. And those were hard years. Those years were more lean. But I have to say, like, working at home, and I've just been making things throughout the year that people, maybe it's because everyone's home, people have been interested and engaged. And I mean, my year's been okay. I mean, I definitely had a lot of gig posters wiped off the slate, but the year just didn't go as bad as I think I thought it was. It's actually been okay.
Yeah, me too. It's sort of, I lost maybe like three gig posters that, well, one of them was actually a set as well, so maybe more like 4 or 5, but that were completely finished and ready to go, and are just sitting there waiting to, I don't know, when touring starts again, they'll get used then, I guess. So I kind of thought the sky was falling in when all that sort of started to happen around, would have been maybe early March or late Feb or something. But yeah, it's actually been quite a good year for me. It's just been different stuff. I've been really lucky with some of the projects that have come along. And when it has come to selling prints, people, like you were saying, Todd, they've been engaged, and yeah, it's actually been okay. Like, yeah, I guess we're probably some of the lucky ones.
I had the same thing. I had, I think every year, you know, it's feast or famine being freelance, and I never know what jobs I'm going to have from year to year. And especially in this time frame from like December to February is always such a lean part of the year that I always have to try and like pad my bank account for this time, you know? And so if the year previous is good, I know I'm like, I can make it through that kind of drought of winter. But so when January rolled around, I had enough money in my bank account where I was like, hey, all right, this is one of those years where I'm actually like in the black, and I'm feeling good about how much money I have in my bank account for the next like 6 months. And I had some Pearl Jam jobs that were lined up, and that just took the like right away. I was like, the relief of the year was gone. Where I was like, all right, that's my year. Those poster sales will take care of my 2020 and probably some of my 2021. And it was just such a sigh of relief to know that, like, okay, 2020 is taken care of. Like I got, even if any other jobs that come along besides those Pearl Jam ones will just be gravy, but at least I know I'm going to make the year. Right. And then all that stuff got just the same thing. Like that's when South by Southwest thing happened. That's when I was like, oh shit, here we go. This is all these concerts are going to stop now. Fortunately, for one of the few times I can think about in my adult life or my existence, the government actually helped out. Unemployment was super helpful. I think getting that COVID relief unemployment payment was helped me tremendously. And then the amazing thing too was that the Pearl Jam camp allowed us, all of us artists, to sell our copies for the tour that didn't happen. And so we got to make the money from that we would have made anyway. And so I got to recoup some of the jobs I lost from that. But if it wasn't for that and for unemployment, I would have been doing a ton of other different stuff or having to find other things. But speaking of that, it makes me think, Ken, I wanted to ask you about Lovecraft Country. You did the type treatment for that too, but are you doing the frames because I remember I watched some of those episodes, and it's interesting with all this streaming stuff that the title sequence seems to be having a resurgence in television and movies. Like I always wanted to do motion graphics and do like Imaginary Forces, the guys that did like the title sequence to Seven and Island of Dr. Moreau. And they were kind of famous in I think the late 90s for all their really cool title sequences. I always wanted to.
It's amazing how many people like commented on the Stranger Things title sequence. Like people that weren't graphic designers were like posting about how great the title
was. Just the letters, just the synthy letters.
Just the graphic simplicity of it. It's just a tangent that people. It was interesting that people were more interested in that than I thought. But go on.
Yeah. But this is kind of a resurgence because there was a period of time where movies stopped having opening title sequences altogether. Then you would have to go to the end credits. Like Pixar is always really great for that. The end credits, they have like illustration work that's all in the, but I was watching Lovecraft Country, and Ken, like the type, I should have known right away because that's your type, correct?
Yeah. So that it was weird. So that job, initially I wasn't actually doing the type.
Did you do the still image? Did you do an image to go with the type too?
Yeah, so there was about maybe 50 illustrations or something. So, and originally what was going to happen was they were all going to be this part of this one epic kind of animated sequence. So it was a bit tricky though, because so I was allowed to watch the first 2 episodes, but they were without all of the special effects.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it was quite weird. It'd be like you'd see someone, go, oh, and the camera would pan around to what would be some kind of, Lovecraftian beast. Right. And it was just like a dude with like kind of a foam ball going like that. Yeah. So it kind of took a bit of shine off it, but yeah. So and then they would kind of provide, I guess, like artist impressions of what the characters would look like and so on and so forth. And then, but the overall sort of theme behind it, particularly all the kind of segregation theme and the all the kind of Jim Crow era stuff, and that was really, big on the initial concepts behind the animated sequence. And I worked with a company called Antibody who did all of the, like, do you remember the True Detective opening sequences?
Yeah.
Those are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Those guys, they're actually Australian. So, they got in contact with me. They kind of had a rough kind of, I guess, like vibe. And then I sort of illustrated the bits and pieces from there, and then they put it into rough sort of showreel style things, and then it would go to the producers, and then we'd wait to hear back, and sort of went on like this for a while, and then they were like, oh, you might want to have a look at the title sequence as well, and then I literally spent I'm talking like 5 minutes on that, and then just went maybe something like this, and they're like, oh, we're into it, but we're not going to do anything else now. So it's just going to be that letter thing. And I'm like, what? all this work. I mean,
Yeah.
it was months and months of work.
But even some of the, even some, I remember seeing, like, I watch it and some of those, just the still image with the type. I should have known it was your type. And then when I heard that, I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard that that was your, I was like, of course that's Ken's lettering. But the still images, there sometimes I'm like, Duff, that's a killer image. Like they're like, you know, it.
Yeah, it'd be like, you know, if the image was this big, they were focusing on something that was like that size on the image, and then they just zoom out a little bit, and then it would dissipate, and then the type would come in. So yeah, it went from absolutely no title sequence and no illustration and nothing. The whole job was basically, they still paid for it, but it was all completely thrown away. And then pretty much like 2 weeks before the show was due to go to air, it all turned on its head again, and it became all about, and this was largely down to the good people at Antibody really pushing for the fact that there was a lot of work done, and it was a bit of a shame. So they got the idea of them being able to, you know, take one of the illustrations and then run like a kind of a, I guess, like smoke and, you know, effects over the top of that illustration, and then work with the type. And so that's how the kind of one piece for each episode came about. And then in the last kind of couple of weeks, we rushed to do another 4 or 5 pieces that were more specific to, like there was one that had like a burning lady, and like a cave that was made out of the eye of the skull and all this other kind of stuff. That was all kind of towards the end. So yeah, but it was a really great, fun job to work on in the end.
It was cool. Like I said, when I responded to that imagery before I knew it was yours. And then, like I said, then once I realized it was yours, I was like, oh, right. It looks like, it's like Ken's work. And then I was stoked. I was like, go get him. Atta boy.
Yeah, no, it was good. It came at the right time as well. That was kind of, you know, just as I began to panic. That job, so it was good. It sort of, it was enough that it meant that kind of, you know, like I went from, like, because I was relying on the sales of these 4 or 5 prints that I basically had in the bag. And at that point as well, I wasn't sure if the Pearl Jam Gigaton thing was going to happen either, that pop-up show one.
Yeah.
So I thought everything was basically going to go to shit. And then that job came along, and it kind of took the edge off. And then the Gigaton thing happened anyway, and that did well. And yeah.
Which, by the way, Ken, that's one of my all-time, I love that piece that you did for that. And I was asked to do that too, to do a reinterpret the Gigaton album cover. Oh, yeah. And the thing that's interesting to me was when I didn't have the time to do it, I couldn't do it, I was super bummed out. But that idea of like reinterpreting the album cover, I probably would have done something akin to like what the Ames brothers did, which was just sort of retaking the same concept as the album rather than coming up with a completely different concept. And what you did, and the other artist whose name I can never remember,
Christoph.
Yeah, was so much cooler because it was a whole totally different album cover than the thing, and it made me really glad that I wasn't able to participate in that because of the job that you did. I was like, oh, thank God I didn't participate in that.
But yeah, no, I mean that was I didn't really understand the brief at first, and I think I was kind of yeah, because I thought it was more about straight up interpreting the album cover. But you know, that being said, I think the
there it is.
The most popular of the 3 was the Ames brothers one that did, you know, pretty literally reinterpret it in their style. But yeah, I was just reading about, I guess, some of the stuff that was happening with global warming, and one of the things was all this permafrost that was degrading, and all these mammoth skeletons were appearing. So I sort of figured that would make good fodder for a print.
It should be a Mastodon record cover. It's so fucking killer. It's so cool.
Yeah, I love the work on the tusk too. You sometimes you get places like a tusk, and it's just a a long passage of ivory, and it can be sort of uninteresting depending on how you handled it. But there's so many interesting marks there and around that curve. That's a beautiful piece.
I think Ken's really good at that though. With like you do that too with faces, where like a human face is, if you're going to draw a female face, is pretty smooth, and there's some contour in that. But like I've always been amazed, Ken, that you can make all these lines in a face to build color and to build texture, and it looks natural and it looks good. And then I'll do it and it looks like I've like painted their face with it doesn't look like it's natural to a human face. So I think,
yeah, I will agree. I feel like doing likenesses, particularly of men where they have more blemishes, it's really tough, and you can look like an amateur really fast by over marking it and just over rendering. I feel like I have the same problem.
Yeah,
I don't do a lot of likenesses.
I've never been good at drawing people.
I'm constantly getting told to strip stuff away. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably over to it.
Hey, Marty, should we do a giveaway?
Hey, let's do a giveaway. What do you want to start with? And then we should probably move into talk about each other's work. We can flash a few images and talk about each other's stuff.
I have a poster back here. I'll give away this Queens of the Stone Age one. As posters, this one. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah.
It's it's based off of the song "Feel Good Hit of the Summer," and also about how Josh Homme first started playing polka guitar or polka music, and how much that influences the Queens of the Stone Age to this day. Is you have that oompa like polka beat to it, and so it was the theme of the poster was a polka band being just assaulted by all of the drugs listed in the Feel Good Hit of the Summer by nicotine, Valium, Vicodin, marijuana, ecstasy, alcohol, and cocaine. And it's just sort of a play off of that idea of
all at once.
Yes, this is and that's what happens. That's how you get the Queens of the Stone Age is you get all of these intoxicants and these drugs molesting a polka band, and therein gets the Queens of the Stone Age. So
man, in like 1998, I saw Queens of the Stone Age for the first time, and they were opening for Ween, and I didn't know who they were, and I think R-Rated was maybe about to come out, I think, and I didn't know who they were, and I thought this is the greatest opening band I've ever heard.
I saw them the first time I saw them live. It was sort of around the same time that Rated R came out.
Okay,
but Pearl Jam was playing in Las Vegas for like their 10-year anniversary.
Okay.
And the Pearl Jam organization was kind enough to let us all, they flew us all out there and put us up in hotels, and we got to go. Conveniently enough, though, playing in the Joint, a little venue, I think in Four Seasons or Mandalay Bay, the Foo Fighters were playing, and they had the Queens of the Stone Age opening up for them. And so we went and saw the Queens of the Stone Age play, and then the Foo Fighters play, and they knew that Pearl Jam was playing across the street of the MGM, so they played their set early. And so we all got to watch those two bands and then go over to the MGM Grand and watch Pearl Jam. And it was such an awesome night of music, but it was and at some point too, that Foo Fighters show, Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins did some sort of drum off thing too. So it was just this epic night of just rock, of really good rock music. But that was 2000. So it was pretty early on. And I fell in love with them because Stone Gossard's record label, Loose Groove, put out that first Queens of the Stone Age record. And when I first got to the Pearl Jam warehouse, they had a bunch of all the Loose Groove stock and boxes of things. And my friend knew the type of music I liked, and she's like, you should listen to that Queens of the Stone Age record. And it never left my car for like 20 years. Like that CD was in my car stereo back to when car stereo still had CD players in it. You know?
All right, folks, you want to be the lucky winner of Brad's Queens poster? Go to your chat function on your screen there and text in Brad, and we'll pick a winner at random.
Ooh, there are lots of people there.
We'll announce the winners in a little bit.
I'll have, if there's a bunch of people, we could do like 2 or 3 too. I got a couple of these. I gotta get them. I gotta get them out of the house.
Okay, well we may pick 2 or 3.
Do it, yeah.
Let me
But
know when you do a giveaway. Just let me know, Marty.
Hey, it's giveaway time. Go ahead, Todd.
Okay, you want me to do? I will. I am going to give away one of these new Grateful Dead prints. If I can hold it back.
Ooh, ooh.
It's on like an opal kind of iridescent paper stock. I'm not sure if I can.
oh yeah, you can see that.
There.
That looks really cool. I like going back to Ken's thing about like foil paper, and we're talking about foils. I have somewhat of a similar feeling about foils, but I have messed around with other color foils, and those have been a little bit more interesting than just the regular. So I did like that 311 poster was on gold, this weird kind of gold lava foil, and that actually was
lava
really
foil. Yeah, I like that stock. Yeah,
it was really cool. And I've done like black foil.
Yeah, it is interesting to hear a divide amongst artists where the collectors like foils more than the artists do. That is my sense, kind of talking to people.
Yeah, and I oftentimes feel like when merchandise companies they'll say like, hey, we want to do a foil version of this. There's some times where I have to say like, it's not going to look good. Like that, it's not
Right.
when you take out the white of the paper and you make it the foil, like the contrast is going to be all weird, or there's going to be too like, and so you almost have to design it with the foil in mind, you know, and be like, okay.
Or sometimes you get like somebody who leans a little more country, and I've always felt like foil just feels more science fiction, and it just tonally it's all wrong, and you have to have awkward conversations and emails.
If it's for like I've seen like for like RoboCop or like a Terminator poster or something where there's metal. Sense. Yeah. And it works well. You're like, oh, that the silver, shiny silver works really good for that, you know. But that actually looks really cool if it's like a
that does look lovely.
Pearl.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. I think the best foils I've ever seen are the ones where it seems like they use the foil kind of as a separate screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, use it as a separate line, almost like kind of let it come through a woodcut. That kind of look.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, the lucky winner on this one, we got some signal jumpers with Todd. Okay, text in Slater.
Yeah, if you want to go into talking about each other's work, like I said, I could talk about Todd and Ken's work till the cows come home. So,
well, you know, this is inside baseball. Let's talk.
Well, I'll start because I'm looking at it right now on my screen. But that Todd's Foo Fighter poster with the speaking of mammoths and that stuff. I can remember, Todd, you emailed me that and sent it to me, and like I was just blown away. Like it took your whole level of the pointillism and stuff like that just to a whole other richness and like sophistication. Like I feel like that poster is timeless. I feel like it could have been made in the 30s. It could like it'll last the test of time as just this really sophisticated, nice piece of artwork. And it weirdly fits the band too, even though I feel like the mammoth has this kind of cute tuft of hair.
He did get sort of he leans sort of Muppet.
yeah, but it has like the weight of it, right? It has this like I kind of feel the Foo Fighters are kind of hard to do posters for. I don't know why. Like there's when I try kind of with concepts.
Hard rock, but they clearly have like a sense of humor too. I don't know. I associate their videos with them, and their videos are often funny. And Dave's really funny and engaging, and so, yeah, they seem like they don't take themselves that seriously, and it is a tough balance in the work. But thanks for nice comments. It was for a New York show, and I tried to take some Art Deco elements, some of the elements sort of inside, like the Empire State Building, that would feel some of the border there to make it feel a little more Art Deco, a little more New York.
I think like for Madison Square Garden, for a show at Madison Square Garden, because everybody holds that venue in this high regard as sort of this achievement of a band's career when they play Madison Square Garden. So those shows have this kind of weight to them. And I think like it succeeds on so many levels. It works well with the band. It's just beautiful looking, and like the texture and the tusks too. You're talking about Ken's texture on the tusk, like your ability, like if Ken's doing all this kind of like deteriorating tusk thing, like all of your little dots and that stuff to give that definition and shape, it's so, because I can remember when you sent the Primus one with the purple monkey, and I think that's when you were really getting really dialed in on that dot stuff,
right?
It's really awesome textures. And so yeah, so when you went from like the Primus one to this one, it was just sort of like a continued evolution of that style, and it was just so cool. It's so cool to see like all of your Picasso phases that you've had, where, you know, your periods of all the different styles that you've had, and anybody who's doing anything for long enough, hopefully you're going to get better and better at something. Your skills are going to hone and get better and better. And I think with that, with both of you guys, that you guys' work just gets better and better and better, and so much more just sophisticated and interesting. And it's, like I said, it's just awesome to be alive at the same time and watch you guys drop these things and work on this stuff and be inspired by it. So I love this poster.
I appreciate it. Hey, you know what, while we're talking about this poster, I'm curious, you know, it's a New York City poster. It's from Madison Square Garden. And there's always this there's this inner dialogue I have where I think, am I going to do something really literal and put an icon of New York City that everyone will recognize on it? And I don't do it. And I often will hear from fans saying they want a literal element on there. I hear it quite a bit. And many of the bands that write, they will ask for the landmark of the city that they're playing in. And I've sort of resisted doing that. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on how you handle the actual venue location. Do you like to put something that's instantly recognizable for New York City there, or is it better to go a little off the beaten path? And what walk me through your thought process on that.
I'll talk first, but I'm curious to hear what Ken has to say on it too. But like, I think, I know for Pearl Jam, when they send out the emails for that, they'll often have the slight art direction that they have will be, if you can reference the city, that'd be cool, but it's not a art direction. You know, it's just saying like, hey, sometimes posters do well if you reference the city. And I've seen that happen over years and years and years. And I feel like it does a detriment to the poster artist, because even just making that simple suggestion of saying like, hey, if you could reference the city, that would be neat, but you don't have to. It already plants that seed. Mm-hmm. Whereas one of my all-time favorite posters, rock posters, was Jeff Kleinsmith's Melvin's poster, the like semen-soaked moon battle. Do you remember that where he made a phallic lettering for the words Melvin's? And it was a moonscape battle scene, and there was all these people that were dead on the moon. They had like crossbows and weird stuff, but it was this big ejaculatory like type treatment thing. So
you're going way back. I vaguely remember that, but no,
yeah, but it was the most bizarro, surreal concept that and it's what I love about gig posters and rock posters is every time I say rock posters, I feel like we're talking about geology. I feel like gig posters are the only place in like graphic design world where you get to really go out there and come up with really surreal, strange concepts and really explore the boundaries of your creativity. And when you tell people like, hey, reference the city, you kind of block out all of that weirdo shit that might happen. You know, all of us, the interesting thing about gig posters is we can all listen to a band and we're all going to come up with totally different ideas for what imagery that might make us think of. But if someone's like, hey, they're in New York and everybody does the Statue of Liberty, or everybody does the Brooklyn Bridge, or everybody, you know, if they do the city, it all of a sudden takes that wonderfulness of the gig poster world and just kind of normalizes it and puts it back into reality. I'm like, oh yeah, here's the city, or like, here's the St. Louis Arch, you know, or, you know, here's the Grand Canyon, whatever the landscape might be. I feel like sometimes it works if it's done well, but then I also feel like it just hinders an artist's ability to really go out there and explore really bizarro concepts that they might come up with. So
cool.
That's my take on it. What do you think, Ken?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, well, yeah, some people really do, well, some clients request it. Yeah, but in Pearl Jam, I'm more like a, you know, if you can, like, basically exactly like you said, if there's a way of incorporating it, then cool. If not, you know, it's not a given. And I think there's been times where I mean, like, for example, that Pixies really has nothing to do with anything. It's more
and
like
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of art. I love it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's sort of like Memphis. I mean, what are you gonna do for Memphis? You're gonna do like Elvis and a country song or something? I mean, it's too on the nose. I feel like sometimes if you go directly to the city.
Yeah. Well, this one was there's a bit of a weird story behind this. Like originally, the can't even remember what the point of it was, but basically the entire poster was just going to be what is behind her there, which was like essentially like this wasteland of abandoned observatories.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to have like white crane birds kind of stomping through just to sort of pop out against this red background. And anyway, actually no, originally it was going to be kind of like a bit of a sort of a Children of the Corn kind of looking thing. So there was going to be these kids that they were going to be walking through this wasteland. They all had kind of like hoodies on, and so anyway, I had this idea and I was really excited about it. And I went to a barbecue at a friend's house and all of our kids were coming. And I'm like, can you get all your kids to wear hoodies or at least bring a hoodie? And would it be cool if I just kind of took photos of them walking around? And they were all cool with that. So anyway, I took photos of all these kids walking around and then sort of went back to the barbecue and didn't really think anything of it. And then when it came to actually looking at the photos, like all of the kids weren't, no one was kind of being natural. They were all kind of like, you know, doing all these kind of like poses where they're all just trying to look a bit cool, I guess. And so when it came to putting these little bodies in there as reference, it just didn't really work. And then I had this kind of, a bit of a meltdown with the image. And then, so I got rid of the idea of putting kids in, and there was going to be these kind of walking cranes, and that looked a bit shit. And then I rang Chris at the Pixies and sort of explained that I was having this kind of crisis and said I'd like to just have another couple of days on it. And then I sort of thought, you know, there's a lot of Pixie songs that reference 13, and I thought like it would be, so I still sort of like this dystopian idea. So I got my daughter to.
I was going to ask if that was one of your kids.
Yeah, so that's my
the
daughter.
The Pussifer poster is one of your kids too, right?
Yeah, that was her as well. So she's been in.
Love that poster.
Yeah.
I love the graphic. I love that the smoke is not sort of a curling whip of smoke. It's just a straight line. It's a nice touch. It's unexpected. It's interesting. Just the way that smoke goes straight up.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, but even I think to the point, like, Ken, your first statement of like a wasteland of old observatories is such a far more compelling concept than referencing Memphis. Like, that's such a much more interesting visual idea than just being like, hey, here's the town where this show was happening in, and there's a Walmart here you can go to, or a Costco. It almost seems like to me like you're referencing like stores. You know, it almost seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a different, like there's times when it's come quite handy. Like there was, I think that Avett Brothers one that popped up before where they had the kid in the tree fishing. That was, I can't remember where that actually was, but there sort of wasn't really, I mean, I've done, you know, a million Avett Brothers posters, and sometimes you are kind of stuck for ideas, and Birmingham, someone's just said, yeah. So I was looking around at stuff there and saw that little water scene with the old mill and everything, and I just thought it looked beautiful as a background. And then that kind of led to the idea of kid up in a tree sort of fishing.
If it's done right, it can be done really well.
I should say that these rules are all meant to be broken too, because I can think of one of Ken's now. I think it was a Black Keys. It's for Seattle, and you have the Space Needle on it.
Oh yeah, that octopus.
It's like octopus. It's really dynamically wrapped around it, and it's amazing. It is a very beautiful print. I saw it. I loved it. So, you know, it's not a rule. It's just a comment.
Well, and even like for like Seattle, like there's been numerous times where I've deformed guilty of in the background or something, some little nod to the city to be like, yeah, it's Seattle. There's a Space Needle. Toronto has a needle, right? You know, but it's like Red Rocks. Like, and I'm guilty of this too. Like,
Yep.
are you doing a poster for Red Rocks and not referencing the rocks or the
That
venue?
one's hard. I feel like you have to reference the rocks. I don't know if I could do it.
I do. I've done 2, 3 there, and each time I've done something made out of rocks. You know, it's.
Hmm.
But if you're a person who lives in Colorado and you go to Red Rocks and you're a poster collector, I wonder if you're like, great, another fucking rock poster. You
I
know,
do wonder that too. Like if you were in Paris and you saw another poster for the Eiffel Tower, wouldn't you be like, all right, enough?
yeah.
I'm in Austin, and like there's so many posters that come in for gig posters that have the bats and the bridge, and some of them are great, but there's a certain level of disappointment if I've seen 5 or 6 bat bridge gig posters for Austin in a year.
Yeah,
The,
but that's what I'm saying. Like it ruins it takes the wind out of the artist's creative sails to kind of like bring them back down to earth. It's one of my problems with all the Marvel movies, because I'm a comic book nerd, is that all those Marvel movies, even though they have this amazing CGI, they make them look real. They make them look like they're taking place in the real world. And to me, the whole idea of comic books when I was a kid was that it was fantasy and that it took you out of the real world. Even if Spider-Man's fighting people in New York City, and you know, it still had this element of this isn't happening in real life. I like the surreal aspect of it. And to me, gig posters is that one place, like I said, where you can just go as surreal as you want and just make really out there weirdo stuff, you know. And it's one of the things I love, speaking of people in Australia, Ken, too, is the We Buy Your Kids, the movie poster stuff that they did was, to me, the most interesting things that I had seen people do for movie posters, which is to interpret the meaning of the film rather than just draw characters of the film, but to kind of give you the way that, like if you were designing a book cover, right? You know, you or a play, something for a play, you would deal with the themes of the play. You wouldn't just reintroduce the characters in that way. But even though there's been so many movie posters that have been amazing, I love that We Buy Your Kids, that all of their posters had this much more abstract take on the concept of the movie, you know. And I feel like that to me, that's what gig posters are. It's this abstract take on sound. Like what does this sound look like, and what does it sound like? And when you just show, hey, here's New York, you know, it, like I said, it can be done really well and really cool, but it just takes the magic and the mysticism out of gig posters when it's just, you know, a cityscape.
Yeah, I mean, the like Fish do request for the most part that you somehow try and reference the city or the location in there, but they're pretty loose on it. Like with the New York one with the alligators. So it's not really a landmark. It's more of a kind of this, you know, myth that there's alligators in the sewers of New York. So that was kind of enough to.
Yeah, but that's see, like that's where it works well, where you're referencing the city, but you're not just showing, you know, like the Empire State, you know, you're not like Statue of Liberty or something. It works. Like that's one of those times where referencing the city works really well, you know.
Like the little
Something I really like here. You always have a little, or not always, but you have little postage size accents here on the bottom right corner. I'm not sure if that's a credit line, but the Pixies poster that came before this, there was a little design within a design. Remember, I always liked that when the Ames brothers did that. They had,
Yeah, Ames is great at coming up with little logo widgets and stuff like that. But like, I don't think even like on this fish poster, I think one of Ken's best skills is like not only just this insane illustrator, but Ken, I think your graphic design sensibilities are like, there's not a lot of poster artists out there that can come up with the way that, like on this thing, the way that you've got the information type, the show information type. You're so good at coming up with little ornamental, like designed things, the way that the type and the city and the venue, and there's little, you know, the way that you get all that stuff in there. Nobody does that better than you. And I think you see it a lot too, when like, especially in the Pearl Jam tours, when they get artists who aren't gig poster artists, they get like some gallery artist or they get some street artist, and they may be like this amazing painter and this amazing artist, but they're no good with type and they don't work with gig
that is
post.
such a weird phenomenon. I see that a lot.
Yeah, and they'll make some amazing piece and then slap some font over it that's not integrated into the design. It's like an afterthought. It's because
And
they don't work.
They're often really, really accomplished, talented, like fine artists who are oftentimes I look and like this person is way out of my league, but then they don't sort of go all the way on the gig poster.
No, it's like there's been numerous times where I've seen a list of artists and I get scared because I'm like, oh man, those are some marquee artists that are in a whole other level, painters and this whole other thing. And then I see what they do for a gig poster, and it's not composed well. The type isn't integrated well. The image might be cool, but I think it's one of those things that people who aren't graphic designers, people that don't deal with typography and that kind of hierarchy of elements where, you know, the band name is the priority, then maybe the opener is the next priority, then the way that you organize that hierarchy of information and how you incorporate it into the illustration design, I think is one of the things that makes gig posters so compelling and so cool, because it's illustration and graphic design. And you'll see these big name artists come in and they don't work with type, and it's obvious that they don't work with integrating type into their designs and stuff like that. And one thing I am somewhat proud of, going back to the gigposters.com thing, was I can remember when Miles Sang was posting his stuff, and he would have these amazing illustrations, and he would took the like block letter. There was a Dillinger Escape Plan poster that he did. It was like a wolf with like an M60 or something. And it was this
it's really early work, right? Yep.
Yeah. And it was just really, it had all this motion, and it was just such an amazing illustration. And he slapped this typeface on it that just took me out of it. And I think I made a comment on Gig Posters on one of his posters, like, if you're going to take the time to do this illustration, illustrate your letters, and it'll just make it so much better. And I don't know if that comment, I don't know how to take credit for that, but then I started noticing him illustrating his lettering and incorporating into his designs, and it made his illustrations and his posters more finished whole pieces, because the type was all integrated in and it was all custom and all that stuff. And I think it's one of the things that you realize with this little niche that you talk about, that there's only so many of us who do this, that it's not something that everybody can handle, because they don't handle type. You might be the most amazing illustrator in the world, but if you don't know how to compose type and do all that stuff, it shows. You see it real quickly. You know?
Speaking of hand lettering, this thing that's on the screen right now is a beauty. This is a gig poster classic for what year? What year was this?
2009, I think, maybe.
Okay, I don't know. This would be in my top 10 of all time for modern gig posters for sure. And the way you've integrated the type here is beautiful. When you had like U2 and Pearl Jam on this gig, I mean, did you realize the weight of this gig immediately when you were doing it?
Well, the funny thing about that is they weren't going to do a poster. This was sort of a one-off show that was happening. I don't remember if it was at the tail end of a tour. It was just kind of this one thing that was going on, and U2 doesn't do posters. And all I could think about was like, how are we not, I was in-house with Pearl Jam at this point. And I was like, how are we not doing a poster for this? And I had talked to the merchandise company, which wasn't T-Cert at the time. It was Anthill, a woman named Kathy Cleghorn who worked there.
Okay.
And I had to like press them and be like, we have to do a poster for this show. Like, when is the other time that U2 and Pearl Jam have never been on a bill together? So we need to do this. And so I had to kind of fight to have them let me do this. And there's nice things that you've said about that, Todd, but every time I look at this poster, to me, it just looks unfinished. It's one of those things where like you can look back in your past work and like, this is such basic shapes, but like I would have tricked out the white water on the crest of the wave. I would have tricked out, I probably would have made the letters look like they're made out of tiki wood and have like, you know, I would have done, like when I look at it now, I would do this just looks like a mock-up to me that I can elaborate on. And I could have made the sun have more design elements and all this other stuff. And like,
I think the graphic elements work. I think that the sun kind of has that endless summer feel to it. And I think the lettering feels sort of Far East. And I also think you got the psychedelic lettering in a way that it doesn't look like Rick Griffin. It doesn't really look like anybody else's psychedelic treatment that I've seen. I've never seen lettering like that that I can think of, and it's just that the way it flows is just beautiful. It's just pleasing to look at. It's a great print.
It's one of those. This one and that other one that both me and you picked, Todd, of Brad's. It's one of this one and that one. I kind of remember being, you know, when people say, oh, I remember where I was when I first heard that song, or when that, you know, that thing happened or whatever. Like, it's one of those things I remember seeing this poster and just being so fucking blown away by it.
That's nice of you to say, Ken. Like I said, it's weird to me because like every time I look at it, it's one of the reasons why I refuse to design tattoos for people is that I can always see how I can make it different. And so when I look in the past, there's some posters that I think, and you guys are probably the same way, that there's some pieces that you feel like the design holds up, but there have to be pieces where, you know, if there's no deadline, I'll keep futzing with something over and over again. And so if I look at this, I could continue futzing with this for like a whole nother year of just detailing it out and tricking it out and stuff like that.
There's a lot of nice touches. The sky in the background kind of has that 80s OP kind of
yeah, it's what's going for.
Yeah, I like that. There's just a lot
to it. That's what's nice about it. It doesn't look overworked. It looks like, yeah, it's like it looks vintage, but it looks modern at the same time. A lot. I just really love this poster.
Well, you guys are making me like it more, so thank you.
when you guys were starting out, who inspired you to make rock posters? Whose work did you see that made you go, I want to do that?
Ken, you go first.
Yeah, I'm really curious about Ken's answer here.
Well, I mean, primarily because I started doing posters in the late 90s, but it wasn't till the mid 2000s that I managed to do international bands. So I was aware of, like all of your kind of late 90s poster artists, your Coops and Kozik and people like that. But very much when it came to mid 2000s, it was probably, Brad and Todd, Porky for sure. Like I remember seeing that Melvin's poster that you showed earlier on with the
face.
Yeah, I just thought as soon as I saw that, it's one of those things that I just looked at it and was so fucking blown away. It's such a cool idea, and I didn't even realize that's possible with printing. It's such it's simple, but it's really striking. It's just like amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good use of that of the inks to show that under the translucentness. It's really. So is that just like a transparent like light gray?
It was like a white, a 50% transparent white. And I was watching Terry Gilliam movie Brazil, and there's a scene there where I forgot her name, Mona from Who's the Boss. I forgot her name in real life. She's getting sort of her face stretched, and it was just one of those things where I thought it would be an interesting element in a poster to do with transparent inks, and it seems sort of, it was both horrifying and kind of funny, and that some of the text here in the Melvins was based off kind of like 60s Disney type of whimsical type of feel. I don't know. Listening to the Melvins too, I remember going to the show and it was so loud I didn't listen to any music for a week. I needed no input going in after hearing the Melvins afterwards.
So Todd, you were talking earlier before though, like Art Chantry, Kozik, and like Art Chantry was a big one for me too, and like Derek Hess. I remember seeing Derek Hess's work was. Can you talk about where you were? Like I can remember that Afghan Wigs poster he had, which some of Derek Hess's work was always sort of like literal on the nose. You know, I mean, like Afghan Wigs, he did like an Afghan dog on top of somebody's head. You know, but it was he had such a great eye for like camera angles. It's one of the things that every time I look at my work, I feel like all of my work has kind of the same camera angle at it, you know. And I think Derek Hess always had that great perspective where he could be above looking down from something. And, you know, he was always a big influence for me. Did you have other people, Todd, besides?
Yeah, well, we mentioned Chantry, and he was a really big deal because he felt more like a graphic designer than an illustrator. And he did, I don't know how to sort of explain all of it, you know, his entire career, but he'd do these unexpected things. Like he'd look at a comic of like the Family Circus or something in the Sunday Funnies, and he he'd just scan like a section that was like a quarter of an inch tall, and he'd blow it all the way up, and you get these really rough edges from the ink from the
Copy
newspaper.
machine.
And he was able to, yeah, and used the photocopying to really distress it down. He was able to find art and really interesting images in really unexpected places, and I feel like that was Chantry's like big revelation on me. Seeing him do that, seeing him find things where I wouldn't be looking was inspirational.
And that is evident.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Ken.
I would also say Rob Jones is a big influence on me. Through, I mean, there's just like a lot of, he was just like there at a lot of points in my career, in terms of advice and throwing gigs at me that, you know, like I would never have done an Avett Brothers poster if it wasn't for Rob, because he didn't have time to do it. So, and that led to a long kind of working relationship with them. I wouldn't have met Todd if it hadn't been for Rob. There's a lot of design things on my posters that are 100% related to little things that I've noticed on Rob's. Like, for example, that fish poster, the New York one, like a lot of elements in the basic design of that poster were really heavily influenced by Rob's Raconteurs posters. I felt, even though it's a different shape and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's, you know, putting little monograms in corners of things. Anything Jack White related came by Rob. Like, he's just been a big influence for me on so many parts.
Hey, Ken, I know Todd's answer to this, but have you talked to Rob on the phone?
I talk to Rob on the phone regularly.
That is a treat, isn't it? It's a special. I talked to Rob forever, like probably 10 years ago, and he called me. We're dealing something with Mondo, must have been for that Tron poster or whatever, but it's captivating. Like, he just talks constantly, and it's one of those times where, like I've said this before, like you could hang the phone up and walk away for like an hour, and Rob's still going on talking about how some pinball machine from the 70s is different from this other pinball machine from the 70s. And he'll reference movies, and there's so many times where I just have to act like I know what scene he's talking. Like, oh, totally, I've seen that movie. I know the movie you're talking. He's referencing some rando movie that maybe only Quentin Tarantino would understand or something like that. But like, they broke the mold.
He's helped a lot of artists' careers. He's been a huge help for me and many of the artists at Mondo, and he's been a key figure in this whole gig poster movement for sure.
Well, and I have to imagine, I want to think too, I don't know if this is true, but I would like in my brain, because I'll watch like the Mondo poster sales over the years, and they'll release like 4 prints, and the print run will be like 500 posters, and they'll be like $65. And I remember like I'll go to Mitch's website, and they'll have a Mondo release, and I'll add up, I'll get out a calculator and be like, Mondo just made $300,000 today. Like it's insane to me. And so with that in mind, I keep thinking I hope Rob Jones is a millionaire. At least I hope at some point in his bank account, he crossed over into 7 figures because of Mondo, because it's like Rob is he really is sort of an important figure in the whole gig poster history of things. I mean, those like there's nobody better at collage than Rob Jones. Like those Raconteurs posters where he's finding all those, like with those little kids, those little cowboy kids, and he's putting them in weird robot room scenes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And just the lack of color too, just like the brown paper, like the color schemes that he would use to tie in with the whatever Jack White's projects color schemes were.
Rob was also the first guy that would that told me what I was doing. A print was just terrible. He was the first guy. And I realized you need a truth teller. You need someone who's just fearless and say, hey, this what you think this is good. This it sucks. You need to go back to the drawing board. And he's done it at different points throughout my career, and he's never afraid to do it. And I think it comes from a place of love. I think he also kind of likes doing it. But you do need a truth teller, and Rob was the guy who really told me, you need to work on this more.
You need a guy who's not afraid to wear a pink leather suit anywhere.
Yeah.
Rob would be the type, like you might be, I guess it's, especially when you're kind of you've obsessed over an image for too long, and sometimes you've really overworked it or something like that, and then you show it to Rob, and it's almost like I'm certainly guilty of saying, yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this, even though I'm not really pleased with this, in order to perhaps make that person not go, well, this is rubbish. So,
right. Yeah.
you know,
I'm really stoked on this. I think it turned out great.
Whereas Rob will go, yeah, really? You're really pleased with this? Why would you be really pleased with this? It's like, I'm not sure why you would do this, this, and this. And you kind of, yeah, like, I think some people don't know how to take that. But like when you're dealing with him, you know, for so many years, and, you know, like I'll stay at their house whenever I'm in the States, and he's visited Australia, and like, you know, I love Rob. Like he's a really good friend to me. And I think, yeah, he's just been a massive influence on me. And he's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
That's when his criticism is often funny, and I think that's kind of the way you do it. It's not totally harsh. He often makes you laugh while he's telling you how bad you are. And
that like we were talking about before, that when I had to do that Spinal Tap poster for Mondo, it was just maybe one of the worst illustrations or worst posters I ever did. And he kind of came back and was just like, it was over email or something, but you could tell he wasn't stoked on it, wasn't happy about it. And it was one of those, like, I knew it was bad too. So it was just like, shit. Now another person has chimed in to be like, yeah, this isn't great. I'm like, yeah, I know. And that's when I realized like movie posters weren't my cup of tea. But
sometimes I don't realize they're bad until a year or 6 months after the fact. Sometimes you have to let the dust settle, and he's told me stuff is bad and I've insisted that it's good, and then it's only later on that I realize, oh no, he was right, it was terrible.
Do you have, I'll ask both of you guys this, does your significant other have any sort of artistic gifts or talents or stuff like that? Because like to that point, Todd, my girlfriend, my wife basically, she's a graphic designer too. And like, I'll be working on something and she's fucking good at everything. There's nothing she's not good at, with exception of like direction. She gets lost very easy. But she'll come in and say like, oh, you should move this type. I'll be so stoked on a design or something. She's like, the lettering doesn't work, or the lettering doesn't work right. And I get all mad because I'm like, it does. It looks fucking great. It's perfect. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And then she leaves and I'm all pissed off because she came in and crapped over something I was stoked on. And I'm like, fine, let's try your way. Let's see how her idea works. Let's move the type over here. And it's always better. And I'm like, God damn it. It's always like, every time I go through this period of like being salty and pushing back against any of the criticism she might have. But then if I just accept it and try it, it's usually going to work better to have. So just having another set of eyes and someone who knows design to come in and go, you might think that reads those, you've hidden those letters in there, but that's usually with letters. Like I try and hide the typography and stuff, and she's like, I can't read that at all. I'm like, okay, I need to fix this or pull this out, or something. But
Christy one of your definitely guys the other Rob in my life, and she has an art degree from University of Texas, and she's the other good truth teller in my life, and she will tell me when what I'm working on is not good. So yeah.
my partner's a musician. So she's definitely creative, and she's got like good taste. She will, I would call her a truth teller to a certain extent as well. Like, but not like I think she thinks I have talent, but doesn't really like the work that I make.
Yeah, I think that might be the same case for me too.
She's kind of like, I'll go, what do you think of this? And she'll go, why don't you do something different? You do this all the time. And I'll kind of go, well, because I know that will work and people will like that. And it works with this band or whatever. And then she'll go, yeah, but why don't you just try a different color scheme or something? And she's standing there in this kind of, really kind of cool looking, colorful dress. And she'll go, like these colors. And I'll go, and like our house all of the artwork in our house is like 100 miles away from anything that I do. So, yeah, our sort of our tastes, I guess, for like there's lots of geek poster artists that I get into because they're for that sort of thing, I guess. But in terms of like fine art that we have, or illustrations, or anything that's framed, and we must have, I don't know, like over 100 pieces framed throughout the house. They're nothing like anything that I would do. Yeah, so it's sort of, but she will kind of quite, yeah, I don't know, like sometimes I almost don't ask her opinion on those sort of things through fear of
I have to be careful when I ask for feedback, because a lot of the time the feedback will happen like right before I'm about to trap something and be done, and I'm like, none of what you're suggesting can change. Like, it's already set in stone. And then she'll say something that I'm like, fuck, that makes so much sense, and then I have to go like rip everything apart and put something back in, because I'm like, I can't not have that note that she gave me, knowing that she's right, and like I got to go back and fix this thing. But then there are like, defiant moments where I think like, she doesn't know what she's talking. This is fantastic. I'm sticking to my guns and I'm going to stick with it. But inevitably her voice is in the back of my head, and I'm like, there was a guy my first job I had after college at this design firm. He was sort of the same way. I'd be all stoked on something that I designed, and then he'd come in and just rip it to shreds, and everything he said would be right. And it was hard to not, you suck it up and take the criticism, but it made you better, because everything he had to say, you're like, you're right, that this is everything you're offering right now is going to help this thing get better. And it's really from that standpoint, right? Of, I want you to make this better. I want, like, if Rob's notes are going to be, he wants it to be a better piece, just for the sake of the artwork, not because he's trying to impose his will. It's that idea of, you're just trying to help out the finished piece and make it the best that it can be.
Rob has a weirdly vast knowledge of like everything too.
Of everything. That's what I'm talking about. Like pinball machines. He starts talking, any subject he talks about, he starts talking to me about, like, he went off on a tangent about pinball machines. And I was like, how do you know this much information about pinball machines and every movie and every obscure band and everything like that? He's like a little encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
Set of
he has an encyclopedic knowledge about everything except for Australia. He visited Australia in for the first time in, I think, like the early or the mid 90s, and it's like we haven't moved on as a country since Rob left. That's sort of how so it's all like Paul Hogan
Dundee.
television all the time, and we're all just sitting around, eating prawns,
shrimp, drinking Fosters.
Yeah, drinking Foster.
Comparing knives.
First time I arrived at Rob's house, ever. I'd never even met him before, and he gave me this fucking giant can of Fosters. It was, I don't know how massive, like like that size, but it was still a can. You could crack it open and everything. I don't think I've drank Foster's since like 1993. You can't even buy it in bottle shops here. But so everything is very, like when I remember when we were setting up at Flatstock next door to Utah, and we were building that background just out of cardboard boxes or whatever, and I only had like a little tiny knife with me, and Rob, what was it? How did it work? I think he said, "Can I borrow a knife?" And no, I asked him for a knife, and he kind of gave me this little knife, and then said, "Say it." So, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Say it." And I'm like, and then I realized he wanted me to say, "That's not a knife. This is a knife."
Hey guys, should we announce a couple of winners here and keep things moving ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, for Brad's Queens poster. Hey, we as per you, man, we got 3 winners.
Okay.
Okay, Eric Larson and Kimberlyn Joffrian and Scott LeBlanc. You guys are winners. So, and for Todd's Grateful Dead, beautiful Grateful Dead poster.
Thanks, Marty.
Richard Charter. So if your name has been called, be the first to where you want to go is to trips. Go to www.trips.org and just let us know you are a winner. We will forward that info on. And congratulations.
We'll get it out.
Yeah.
Did you want to get another giveaway rolling or anything, or?
Oh well, I won't stop you.
Okay. Do you want to do something else, Brad, or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. I've been making these really.
Ken's gonna give away those easels in his back there.
Okay. I've been making these really large enamel pins. All right. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
There. Okay. And this was based on a Black Keys gig poster. And I like that they're sort of art objects and not just enamel pins. They're numbered on the back to 75, and the back has a engraving on it as well. It's got some shiny, glittery stuff in it.
Yeah, they say like metallic in there. That's cool looking.
Yeah, I've been having fun making them. It's just something else to do while the pandemic goes on. And yeah, I'll give one of those away, and then I'll do one more when we get to the end.
Oh, and if anybody out there too, you should buy T-shirts from Todd. Your shirts that you use, those are my favorite shirts. Like I've got the like Oros Boros Celtic Snakes one, and then
cool.
The bee that you had from the Pearl Jam poster. And
Nice.
I love the T-shirts. I like the print quality is good on them. So for anybody out there, go buy some of Todd's T-shirts. They're really, really nice T-shirts. And I had to go to this gallery in San Francisco for this Pearl Jam show poster kind of thing that we did down there. And I was there with the Ames brothers and Emick, and we were signing the prints that we had to sign the day before the gallery thing opened. And I was wearing that shirt, Todd, that B shirt from the Pearl Jam poster. Right. And I was and like Barry, Ament, and I think Emick were flipping me shit because they're like, you're wearing a Pearl Jam shirt. And I was like, no, I'm wearing a Todd Slater shirt, motherfuckers. This isn't a Pearl Jam shirt. This is a Todd Slater shirt. There doesn't say Pearl Jam anywhere on this. This is Todd's art. I love that B. I love that shirt.
Appreciate it.
Oh, we forgot to say, if you want to win Todd's cool pin, type in pin.
All right, while they're doing that too, I made, if you remember, Hypercolor in the 90s. I tried printing on this fabric.
I saw this on Instagram.
Whoa.
I don't know. I had fun doing it. I enjoyed it.
I feel like that might give you away. Like if you were talking to a chick you were nervous to talk to, and all of a sudden you start sweating, your body heat's rising.
They weirdly had all these problems in the 90s, but I look back on them fondly for whatever reason.
My armpits used to do that when I was in high school.
That's what I mean. That's totally, yeah.
I'm guessing Hypercolor shorts never took off.
What'd you say, Ken?
I'm guessing Hypercolor shorts never took off.
Good reason for that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give away a set of those fish vultures as well, maybe to 2 people.
Oh, nice.
So I guess one to each person.
Is there Nick? Is there an image of that? Did you send vultures that one, the fish one, Ken?
Do you want me to send it? I thought I actually.
Was that in your batch of posters that you sent? It might be.
Yeah, I think Nick's got that image. You there, Nick? He's probably looking for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I forgot that one. Give me 1 sec.
Our technical director.
But yeah, that fish poster, Ken, like I was telling you before, that's I think another example of like how fucking killer you are with type and getting all of your type dealt with and organized. It's such a cool. I love when you do rough letters, when you do that like textury, or even like on that Queen's poster, that like splattery type stuff. I love all the like paint, the like almost like horror movie kind of spray of letters. Like,
yeah, it's like I guess it's a get out of jail free card for filling space sometimes, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard thing about, I know like Monk wanted to ask me if I wanted to do a puzzle, because people have been doing like puzzles. And I would look at some of the posters the images that they want to do puzzles with, and you take the band name off and the image the composition just changes entirely. And you're like, oh, this isn't really a compelling image anymore, because you've just taken away like a third of the shapes that were in that space due to the typography. And I was like, this is going to be a really boring, awkward puzzle if you just have this swath of sort of empty space where there used to be a whole bunch of letters.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, I think we're having a little trouble getting up that image. That's the fish.
Yeah. Just email it to me.
The fish vultures, you said?
Yeah. Hang on.
Okay, we're going to have 2 copies of that to give away. So type in Ken. Boom.
Ken, are you on like a Wacom or a Cintiq?
Cintiq. Yeah, actually, for anyone out there using Cintiqs, these little, or any Wacom really, these little orange things here.
Yeah.
They're called Ergo. They're freaking awesome. Oh, there you go. There's an actual real life version of one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're excellent for. I had quite bad RSI in my hand from drawing, particularly like doing stippling and all the sort of detail stuff, because you kind of tense your wrist. And this has changed everything. It's fixed everything basically. It's just like a little bulbous rubber slip that you put over your pen, and yeah, couldn't recommend them more.
That's interesting. I have not heard of that. I use one of those as well, but don't have the band around it.
Yeah, they're really good.
I have got like a little bump on my middle finger on my right hand from here, right there. There it is. From holding when I work on that pen will get rest in my finger, and there is like a weird little, I've noticed like calcium deposit that's forming from a little nubbin on my finger from where I'm always having a pen. But so that might be a good little feature to have, Ken. That's interesting. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, no, they're good.
Yeah.
Is this barn on this? Is this based in reality? It has a very weird, like very cool Tim Burton-y kind of vibe, but also feels really grounded in reality. It feels real. Like I can't tell, the proportions are wild, and it's really fun print to look at.
It's not really based on anything. The whole image is based on lyrics. Originally, there was actually a little ghost walking up to the door, but they weren't into that, so I removed that. But yeah, when I had first provided the little sketch, the sketch was essentially that kind of barn house thing, to kind of give them the idea of what I was thinking of. And then I went, when it came to doing the more developed piece, I went and kind of built a Frankenstein sort of house out of lots of other imagery I found, and made this kind of epic looking house. But it just didn't look as good, I guess. So I went back to the very, very little thumbnail and didn't really change too much about it.
That brings up something interesting, Ken. I'm curious, how do you guys handle submissions for like thumbnail sketches and stuff, like for concepts? Because I know like when I come up with a concept for a poster, my sketch is like a messy scribble of nonsense that no one can really make heads or tails of, but it makes sense to me because it's just basically I'm just laying out composition. I'm like, there'll be a block of type here, there'll be an image here, there'll be a thing here. And then from my concept to the finished poster, it changes greatly. So every time bands ask for like a thumbnail or a concept sketch, I'm always kind of reluctant because people tend, from my experience, they can't make that leap of faith from a rough concept sketch to figure out how it's going to transfer into a finished piece. They just see the concept sketch, and there's not a lot of people that can use their imagination to go, okay, this is going to get significantly better from here because they've seen your other work. So there's been a couple of times where I've submitted ideas for posters, and I've seen some other people's submissions, and it's almost like a finished poster. They'll send in like a thumbnail where I'm like, oh, that's basically, they drew pretty much the thing that they were going to do, where all the type was. Do you guys give loose submissions, or is it relatively close? Because obviously everything changes as you're working on it. But are your concepts, ideas that much further away from the final piece?
It kind of depends on who I'm working with. I think if you go back into my Instagram from last year, probably there was when I released that Ghostbusters poster through Mondo, that sort of showed the sketch I sent to Rob and Mitch and Eric there to sort of convey the basic vibe, and that really is like, you know, it looks like it was scrawled on a serviette at a diner kind of thing. But because I've worked with them for years and years and years, they kind of
know, yeah,
and then I will, you know, follow that up with a more kind of solid looking one, and then like a very polished looking one that would get sent to a studio for approval before I move to final. For bands like Fish, who I've worked with a lot, the sketches they're probably at the level of maybe like the second or the third sketch that I would give to Mondo. But again, they kind of, it comes down to how often that person's used to working with you. Like if I'm working for, like an ad agency or whatever, like I'm doing a bunch of whiskey related things at the moment, and the sketches for those, like one sketch for approval, for the first round of approval would take me probably 4 hours for the sketch, and then there's another 2 rounds of approval before I'd even get to the final or something like that. So it really depends. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think, Todd?
I think I started off with the idea of kind of under promise, over deliver, and it always made a bigger bang on the final if I had a looser sketch. But it's just, as the years have gone on, it's just harder to submit really loose sketches, and I feel like my sketches are getting more involved, and I think that what I always tell myself is that if they don't approve this sketch, I can often use that subject matter on a future project. I mean, it's often not totally a waste. It feels really bad if you spend a lot of time on a sketch and then it just gets canned and you have nowhere to go with it. Then it really feels like you've wasted your time there. So I try and think about other uses for pieces of the subject matter, elements of it, if I think it's going to get canned. But to answer your question, I feel like they're getting more detailed.
Yeah, because I think there's times where like I hate submitting concept sketches because I'm terrible. Like I said, I'm terrible at them, and I just want the person to trust me. I'm like, just trust me. It'll end up looking okay. It'll look good. Like, you hired me because you like my work, so have faith that it's going to turn out okay. But like, I can remember for one band, I submitted a concept sketch that was kind of cartoonish and loose, but it gave like this is where the shapes will be. You'll get the basic generic idea, and they just couldn't make the leap with me. And then they submitted back to me like 3 other posters of mine. They're like, we want you to do something more like this, that's similar to things of yours that we've seen. And so I changed my concept to kind of go to what they asked for. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had stood up for my original concept, because it would have been fantastic. It would have done really, really well. And then they couldn't, like I said, they couldn't make that leap off of my concept sketch with me, and just said, do something like this, that, or the other thing. and it ended up being like not a great design and not working well for that band, even though they looked at things in my past that they said, we like this, can you apply this to our band? And I was kind of like, well, no, because that's not your band, you know, like, and so it's always tough to submit concept sketches because, and not only that, like, I always feel like after I give you the concept sketch, it's going to change after I've been sitting with it for 2 weeks, right? Like, right. The idea has been marinating. I've been looking at it. I'm like, oh wait, I can change this entirely. You know, I can do something completely different. So I always get a little apprehensive about submitting when bands want to see a concept sketch, because for so long with Pearl Jam, they wouldn't ask for concept sketches at all. Like, you just did the poster and they saw it the night of the show. So I grew up kind of spoiled.
That was the way all of my most of my early gig posters were. Just the expectations were very low on what the band expected, and there were oftentimes there was a sketch wasn't needed, and I could just kind of go for it, and the process happened pretty organically, and it just changed throughout while I was working on it. But as expectations have been raised over the last 5 or 10 years, the people just expect more. They want to see more out of the sketch, and I've just kind of accepted it. That's
which makes sense. If it's your band and you're hiring people, then you want to make sure that you know. But like, I would get this like prima donna spoil, like, how dare you ask to see us? I never had to do this in the past. Like, I just made posters, and now you want to see a concept and approve it before. Then I get all pissed off and angry. But it's the same thing. Like, you understand? Like, of course, it's your band name. If someone's going to put something out there that you don't like, then
I get held up too on doing multiple sketches. I am a believer, if you can get away with it, in just sending one sketch, and it's for the idea that you really, really want to do. Because if you're submitting multiples, inevitably there'll be one that you like a little less, and then they pick that one, and you're working on an idea that maybe isn't your favorite. So if I can get away with it, I will submit one really good sketch versus 3 mediocre ones.
I only ever submit one sketch.
Okay.
But I've had that same, that's the cardinal sort of rule, right, about any design job is, if you go in to do a logo design for like a company or something, and you want to pad the things you're showing them to make it look like you've got like 10 logos instead of only having 3. So you throw in those 7 ones that you aren't super proud of. Inevitably, they'll pick the bad one. They'll pick the one that you hate. So never throw in the thing that you don't like just to make it look like you've got more work, and gloss. Just gloss over that one. They'll be like, wait, what's this one?
I think there are other artists, though. I've seen Rob show me a lot of the sketches for Mondo, and there's some really good guys that good people that will do mini sketches. And I think that they're so flexible at what they're doing that they can kind of get invested in whatever idea they pick. So that may just be a shared thing between you and I don't know.
Hey guys, we're closing in on the 2-hour mark here, you know?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we probably, time to announce a couple of winners, and hey, announce the Artist Relief Trust poster.
Oh yeah, that.
Let's get our winners up here first.
And actually the orange, the TRPS poster printed a lot brighter, like a much more saturated orange. So that orange is a lot richer on the actual print. It's brighter. Yeah, the blue one looks the same.
It's just a gorgeous design. You've outdone yourself here, Brad. This is great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Let's announce our winners here first. For Todd's pin, our winner is Jack Ingram. And for Ken's fish poster, we've got 2, Chase Harrell and Tanya Morris. It could be Moss. I think it's Morris. But congratulations to you guys. Go to trps.org. You can get a hold of us there. Shoot us an email if you're a winner, and we'll make sure that you get your prize.
We're running really low on time, Marty. Do you want me to just go ahead and do this last giveaway so you can start running it, or?
Oh yeah, no, go ahead and do a giveaway. We'll do that, and then get this thing launched here.
Okay, my last giveaway. It's another pin. It's a gigantic Triceratops pin.
Oh, shiny.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Thank you. And it's numbered to 75. It's on like an anodized rainbow metal.
Are those expensive to make?
They are so expensive to make.
They look expensive. They look fancy. They came out really cool though. I like the size.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Perfect for any occasion. Okay, if you want to win the Dino pin, type in Dino.
And these have not sold yet. Somebody asked that. I probably will do them in early January
You
or
people
something.
type fast. I'm amazed.
Yeah, they're flying in.
Man, flying fingers.
I did one of these large
cool.
pins with a guy named BioWorks, Ben Kwok, and he kind of introduced me to that world. I did a collaboration with him, and then there's a whole group of people not dissimilar to the gig poster crowd who like
collect
pins, and I think doing the big ones seemed more interesting to me because they sort of turned into art objects. But I have to credit BioWorks, Ben Kwok, for kind of introducing me to that world.
Put that on your backpack or something.
Yeah, what do you put these big giant pins on? Like your breast pocket or something? Is that
I don't think people hang them. I don't think people wear them on any piece of clothing. I think it's maybe on pin boards, or they're just keeping them as objects.
Oh, you know what would kill it? You know what it should be? It should be a belt buckle.
That's what I was.
Ouch.
Yeah. don't bend over and pick stuff up though. Yeah.
Make sure the horns go up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's Nick, if you got those Brad's poster image, can we pop those up again? This is our Artist Relief Trust poster. The money from this poster goes directly into TRPS set aside fund, the Artist Relief Trust, and we are directly, helping artists. A lot of people get through a really tough time here, and we count on our community to do it. We are unveiling this and letting you people who are watching and participating in this event, and thank you all so much. You're going to be the first ones to get a crack at this. We're pricing it attractively, we think, for you guys as a spiff.
And there are foils. Don't forget the foils.
There are foils.
Just regular old silver foil that like we were disparaging before. But yes.
And somebody who buys the regulars somebody's going to get a foil slipped in. We're not putting foils up for sale right now. We're giving a couple away to somebody who orders, buys one of these posters.
And
stay tuned for the future of the foils. We'll figure that out.
And I was going to say too, for anybody out there that's curious, the concept of the design is basically about inspiration, like ideas. The idea of where do ideas come from, that sort of thing. So it's when I was thinking about doing a poster for the Rock Poster Society, it made me think of that thing that's my favorite part about rock posters, which is where do you get your ideas from, and the ideas that you get to chase and stuff like that. So the image is all about that idea of the inspiration of creativity and the inspiration of the idea. So little background.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, it's basically, when we get we solicit someone to do one of these posters, the idea is basically you're doing this, for your fellow artists, and come up with something about what does being a poster artist mean to you? Where does inspiration come from? What does the art mean to you?
And too, for anybody too who is new to TRPS and all that stuff, I had talked to Marty over the years via email, but last year was the first time I got to go to TRPS and meet everybody in person. And Marty is one of the most lovely, wonderful human beings, and the whole TRPS crew is just super wonderful, lovely people interested in artwork and interested in the poster community and the artists and stuff like that. So it's just a really amazing community of people, and the fact that that's what it's designed to do, is to help out artists when they're in trouble, is just it's such a cool endeavor and inspiring. And I'm just grateful, Marty, for being able to be involved in it and somehow and help you guys out. Thank
you, Brad. It's a joy to be a part of. That's no doubt about it. We've just got the best team, and it's just, we constantly work with just the coolest people around, and it just makes for it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So
anyway, people are asking about how to order. Okay. Nick is going to pop up the information. We've got a special page set up at trips.org, and there are buy buttons, buy with PayPal. We're pricing these at $35 each. And we're also setting aside some match numbered sets. If you want both colors in matching numbers as the pair, that would be $80. And you'll find that info up there as soon as we get it popped up.
And not to hammer home the point though too, and obviously it's my poster and I want it to do well, but I mean it's really going to like a truly awesome cause. I mean if you like what we as poster artists do, then it's just like I said, TRPS is just a really cool organization, and it's just such a it's rare to see that there's people out there looking out for you. You know, given that all of us are in this profession as sort of isolation, little islands unto ourselves, it's nice to know that there's people looking out for us and considerate, wonderful, lovely human beings.
Thank you, Brad. What we do, what goes to you guys always ends up coming back to us, you know?
And at some point too, once everybody has if you guys go to TRPS and stuff, I'll have AP, a small run of stuff too on my site eventually later in time too as well.
Yeah, we appreciate. We've got a really good sized, nice audience tonight, and we hope you guys consider buying the poster. Also, if you are already a member of TRPS, thank you. And if you are due to renew, go to trips.org and please continue being a member. If you're not a member, why not join? You need to be part of this thing too. This is what makes us go. Our membership and the continual support of what we're doing, and it's important that the more people involved in this thing, the cooler we can make it, and the more possibilities we can follow up on. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these type of shows, guys. I'm so appreciative of you guys being here tonight, and Ken, and I know Ken, you got a camping trip coming up here. It's summer down under, huh?
Yeah, we're finally out of lockdown, so that's good. This will be our first trip away. Hence the reason. The camping shit's behind me here. But,
well, have a great time. If we can't get that ordering info up, John or Nick, can you just text it to me and I'll let people know? We're letting you. If you've tuned into the show, you're getting first crack at this poster. Oh, here we go.
Oh, another thing too, I wanted to say too that on your guys' logo, the TRPS logo with that little Egyptian flying solar disc with the eyeball. That my design was sort of referencing that too, with that sort of eye and the wing of the peacock, and that idea of like the flying eyeball, that idea of sort of the wings of inspiration, or that idea of vision. The flying eyeball reference was definitely something I was thinking about.
I like the way the line weight in the drawing kind of matches all the graphic elements. It just feels really unified. All the elements feel like they just fit in and lock in together.
Well, thanks. That's good, because like I seldom, if ever, do anything as one solid piece. It's all kind of Frankenstein together, so it's tough to try and make sure that the line quality, it looks like it's one finalized sort of piece.
It's really unified. It's a good piece.
Thanks, man.
Okay, I see the link has been popping up on your screen. Can we make sure everybody gets that web link to where to go to buy the posters?
Nick was just circling it up there at the top. And I wanted to say too, I can't thank Todd and Ken enough for agreeing to take 2 hours of their day to do this. I'm beyond honored to get to work in this weird little niche field that we get to. And like I was saying, the fact that I got to come up with Todd and Ken, and I consider you guys both friends, despite the fact that Ken, I don't think we've ever actually met face to face. It's just you guys are heroes of mine, and it's just super cool to get to sit here and to talk about this thing that we all get to do, and just feel very privileged to get to be making art at the same time you guys are. So
okay,
thank you for asking me. It's fun.
Thank you.
Good. I'm assured the link is up. If anybody watching this has trouble getting it or missed it, shoot us an email at trips.org. Contact us. Let's see. We've got a winner for the Dino pin, Chris Gallen. Congratulations. You are dynoed up. Anything else we need to get to, guys?
I don't have anything else.
I'm going to go put my kids to bed, most likely.
Yeah, I'm ready for dinner here.
I got to go pee. This beer, the beer is catch. Somebody asked me what I was drinking. I don't know what, it's just whatever this is. I don't know. I like crappy beer. Not that that's crappy beer, but.
Guys, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We love your work, and everything you shared with us has been a lot of fun.
Cool. Thanks for moderating, Marty. Appreciate it, man. It's good to meet you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks. It was fun.
Thanks everyone for checking us out, and watch for the next. We've got some good episodes. We're sticking with this mystery tube thing because it's got so many cool possibilities, and we've got some good stuff planned for the next few weeks, including, a couple of really good things. Watchtrips.org, watch your Instagram, follow us, Facebook, all of that stuff, yada, yada. Thanks everybody, and good night and good afternoon, Australia. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
Brad, I'll be talking to you soon.